welcome to twitch.tv/ESPN eSports. This is the Rift Rewind, an ESPN League of Legends program. Yes, we are here every single Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Emily, and Tyler. Jacob is off this week, but we still have a program for you. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a lot of the news items that we maybe haven't been able to talk about the last couple of weeks, talk about what's going on in the League of Legends scene. The first thing we'll mention, though, is that this is the one-year anniversary of last year's MSI, and some of us were there. One of us was there, actually, in Taiwan. So let's reminisce a little bit. All that all-West final of G2 and Team Liquid, Tyler. And what was your prediction again for that?
For one, I had been in Vietnam and Taiwan for about, 3 weeks at that point. I just saw Team Liquid beat IG in Taiwan.
My heart hurts every time I hear that.
The emotion, the pride, seeing Doublelift on stage as all the Taiwanese fans call out his name. It was peak North America. That was a great day for North America. It felt like North America had we had taken a big step that day. And I remember going to the final, G2 versus Team Liquid. It was awesome. I remember getting out of the Uber, the taxi. I remember Team Liquid fans seeing me, high-fiving me, taking photos. I'm the NA guy. They know I'm from NA. They know I talk about NA. They translate all the articles and the tweets, and it's like, usually they make fun of me because I'm the NA guy, but today, that one day, I was like, they're like, Team Liquid. I'm like, yeah, Team Liquid's going to do it. I remember going up, watching the opening performance. I had the perfect view of the stage. I was saying hey to the casters before their cast. I was so excited.
Were you hugging them in solidarity?
No, it was I was like, today's the day. Today's the day Team Liquid's going to do it. This is going to be such a great day for North America. Yeah. I remember sitting next to all my European journalist friends and being like, shush. This is my day. NA is going to do it. North America is going to win one for me. I was so ready. I was like,
for me.
For me, this is my day. It was also because I started my writing with Team Liquid, right? In 2010, 2011, when I first started writing on esports, it was teamliquid.net, StarCraft. It felt like a serendipitous, fateful moment, right? Everything in my life, all in my professional career, led up to this moment where I'm in Taiwan to watch Team Liquid finally bring it home for North America, and then Game 1 happened, and then Game 2 happened, and then Game 3 happened. And then I remember
they were all very quick.
I remember slowly walking to the press room, though seeing people that high-fived me earlier would not look me in the eye. I remember going to the press conference room, and it was still light out. It was still light out because the final only took an hour and 30 minutes. It was such a quick final that it was still light out. I just remember everyone, the Chinese reporters, the European reporters, they were all looking at me to see if I was okay, and they were laughing at me. It was a great day, Arda. It was a memorable day I'll never forget. The day that I thought that NA could finally do it, and as we look at and we talk about NA today and how we've gotten to the point we are, that was the first day. It's been downhill ever since, my friend. It's been downhill ever since.
It's kind of funny, Emily, that we're going to be talking about the state of NA a little bit later.
Yeah. It's my story is I was watching and doing content from home, and one of my friends, one of my best friends, I told him that an NA team was actually in the final, and he was like, whoa, really? Do you want to watch together or Discord? Because he hadn't watched LoL esports in a while, but he's a casual player and he used to be a big fan. And I was like, oh yeah, Doublelift in the final should be fun. I don't think they'll win, but it should be a close final, right? And after Game 1, he was just like, what is it? And then Game 2 happens where it's Doublelift in the middle, in the mid lane, just randomly auto-attacking the turret by himself. And it was just he kept asking me what's happening. I'm like, yeah, this is not good. This is not close at all.
Serious question though. Team Liquid beating IG, is that the most important NA win in LoL history?
Yeah, it's the biggest upset in League of Legends history. Unless you want to argue Cloud9 versus Afrika, which I was also there for, which was also awesome, and then Also followed up by a 3-0 victory where European team just destroyed the NA team coming off a monumental victory. But it's either that, the Team Liquid or IG, or it's the TSM IEM victory if you want to put credence towards the IEM World Championship meaning anything. It's one of those three.
I actually think RNG G2 2018 deserves a nod there, because everyone forgets, because G2 were like super dominant domestically and then used to like got a reputation for choking at international tournaments. And this specific G2 team had to go through play-ins, and they were not expected to win. RNG was like going to go through like the golden sweep. And as we're meeting with RNG to plan our content with them, they lose to G2. I think that, like, to me is a really monumental like best of 5 upset as well. The IG one is so frustrating because I think it's a day where IG, like, at any given day can play like at their best or like at their worst, and the extremes are incredibly like disparate. And you know, TL played like their absolute best that they could, and then IG played like their absolute worst.
I would say their absolute worst. They weren't that bad.
Did you see them? Did you see them against FPX in the 3rd, 4th place match? Yeah. I would say that actually might be the worst that I've seen. Yeah. Not at Worlds. I'm talking about the most recent LPL.
IG played like 4 out of 10 that day, and Team Liquid played 10 out of 10. It was a great day. It was a really fun day, though. And then G2 ruined it.
Hey, any given series, right? Magatron does say even people who hate TL should have sympathy for the fans who had to watch that day.
It was rough.
It was not.
It was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough, especially coming from someone who was on the ground floor talking a lot of smack.
Yes.
A lot of smack was talked that day, and it was a very pitiful ending.
Well, speaking of talking smack, that's exactly what you did going into our fantasy draft last week, Tyler. And for those of you who've been following us for a while, you know that sometimes we like to have a little bit of fun here, especially during the off season. We still have some time before the leagues return. So we decided, you know what, we're going to have some themed shows. If you joined us for trivia on Friday, thank you very much for doing that. We're going to have trivia again this Friday. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but definitely look forward to that. Last Rift Rewind on Tuesday, we did a fantasy draft. Let's take a look at the final teams that we had picked. Here's Emily's team coming up momentarily. And this was a lot of fun. I love this process. I bet you we might do something similar like this again. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I feel like we had a lot of different approaches on how we put our teams together. Here's Emily's team. And looking back on it, with hindsight being 2020, Emily, would you change anything?
I mean, I did want Mickey X. So, like, no offense, Hillsang, I wanted Mickey X Sven as my bot lane. But no, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I still think my team's really good. I actually think they'd win. I think the only like huge criticism that you could levy against my team is that more recently the meta has shifted to a more bot lane focused meta. So you could say that because I didn't focus on bot lane, a team like Tyler's with Teddy could, you know, what was it? Teddy Core, right? Was your bot lane? Yeah, like they would do really well as the meta has shifted away from being more like solo lane, top lane focused. But I had a very clear identity of what I wanted from this team. I think they play really well together, and I stand by my team wholeheartedly, despite the fact that I was the least popular team on Twitter.
Well, maybe the Twitter vote is part of the reason.
Someone won
I think
the
just
Twitter
the
vote.
fact, the medium, I think, yeah. Maybe if we put I believe we might have Tyler's in just a second here. And there's Tyler's right there. Yes. And that Yankos pick was like just completely threw me off guard because I wanted Yank, and I even tried to trade for Yankos.
I feel very good about my team. I came second in the Twitter poll, even though I didn't have the golden goose of Faker and Doublelift on my roster. It seemed like most analysts picked my team. LS in particular was very happy with my Savant pick of putting Chovy in the top lane. I love my team. I predicted every every single team that was made, I pretty much predicted or had a 80%, prediction rate on it. The only person that surprised me in the entire draft was you, Arda, because I gave you Faker because I thought you would screw it up, and you did not screw it up. I thought you would.
Wait, I maintain that he did screw up because his team would not get along internally.
No, I know that, but I thought Arda.
In terms of winning a Twitter poll, I think he definitely killed us.
No, I thought Arda was gonna pick Faker first, and then go Broken Blade, and then Closer.
You thought I was gonna pick my Turks, Faker and the Turks.
Yes,
okay.
I thought it was gonna be Faker and the Turks.
Somehow I was gonna break the rules and just pick 3 NA players.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought you were gonna go I thought you were gonna be I got Faker. I'm now gonna pick my friends and everything, my Turkish brothers. And then I thought, okay, if you do that, then people on Twitter are going to be like, this is dumb. I'm going to give it to Tyler. I'm going to give the obvious win to the Knight Chovy team. But obviously, you actually picked smart. You picked the Shy, which is, again, another popular
So show my
player.
team, Jared, if you don't mind, our producer, Jared, behind the scenes, if you don't mind, just throw up my team here. This is the winning team, by the way. And I'll be honest.
Arda's team is the team that's all going to murder each other within a week of playing with each other.
So when you look at this team, here's the thing, okay? So obviously the Shy and Kanavi are these are good players today picks, right? These are the ones that are really going to carry the team from a youth mechanics perspective, okay? Mickey X has the pedigree, multiple-time LEC champion, knows how to win, has the sting of Worlds too. I like that. So Mickey X was a particular pick for me because I wanted somebody who has tasted world success, but not ultimate world success, and that's Mickey X, right? Faker, obviously, total Twitter pick, okay? Yes, but also lots of world success. So I feel like you put players around Faker, it's good. Now, here's the wild card. Now, I want everyone to know, if you didn't watch our fantasy draft last week, I had the option. I had to pick an LCS bot lane, okay? So my 2 choices there were Double Lift and Bang. So Emily correctly, and I'm agreeing with you here, Emily, Bang would have been the better choice for the actual team itself. Yeah. Agreed. 100%. Not how the victor was calculated. And so that's why I picked Double Lift, and I said, I'm going to win this competition. Now, if the rules change next time, then see you later, Double Lift. Bang, come on in. Right?
No, you played
so that's why I made that.
No, I mean, like I said, I never play to win Twitter polls, so I'm not surprised that my team was the least popular, but I actually really stand by it. I
love Megatron says this team would implode so fast. That's not my concern.
They murder each other.
They need to win one Worlds. I'd be fine with that.
Would just be in the middle being like, oh my God, get me off this team, please.
One Worlds. That's it. 2 months together, scrim for a bit. And I even said that Double Lift and Faker would probably get into a fist fight, and then they would be fine for 2 months, and then they would separate.
It would be the Shy.
Oh, the Shy and Double Lift. All right.
The Shy would probably just leave. He would probably just get a plane ticket back home.
Anyway,
I'm done.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with the fantasy draft. We're going to have some fun ideas for you on the Rift Rewind and things like Trivia Night, which is happening every Friday. So, and by the way, during Trivia Night, you have a chance to participate. We are playing with all of you. So it's happening in real time. If you want to play some League of Legends trivia, join us on a Friday night. Come and hang out. It's a lot of fun. So let's get to the topics at hand here, though. We're going to give you a quick Rift Rewind digest of some of the news items that have been happening around League of Legends. And we have to start with NA. It is pretty bad out there if you're in solo queue. Yeah. So it started with, I mean, look, this is a problem or a challenge that has been brewing for a very long time, particularly for those who are content creators, grinding solo queue. One instance is Voyboy. Voyboy on May 4th posted a video on YouTube, wasn't happy with the state of solo queue, talking about how people are deliberately going AFK, inting, griefing, ghosting games if they feel like they're unhappy, even at the selection screens. There's a lot happening here. Was very unhappy, posted that, and said, look, something needs to change here. It has never been more toxic in solo queue. And I can say this because I have been grinding this game. I'm creating content, and I've been playing since Season 1, so I can feel it, and I can tell. It's a consistent thing. Now, to their credit, Riot did respond. They did have basically a long blog post saying that they will look to make some changes here. But my question to you, Emily, let's start with you. When you see all of this, when you read all of this, even Riot's response, is there any hope that any of this will change?
I mean, I am not optimistic about it, having covered NA for a very long time, but like let's break down like the context of Boy saying this, because like I know Tyler can back me up here, but like Boy is the nicest person. Like he is never toxic. Like he is just, you know, like your paragon of like what Riot Games would want a content creator to be like, right? Like he is incredibly helpful. He is incredibly nice. He explains a lot of things when he streams, right? He is just like a very fun person. Like he actually was one of the few League of Legends streamers that I watched play Valorant when it launched, just because he's so chill and so fun, and you know he's not going to like rage at his teammates or anything like that, even if he's just like flat out like inting, not like doesn't know how to play the game. He just has such a great attitude. So for someone like him to come out and make this, and I think like people should watch his video, because it's not like he's sitting there like yelling at people, right? Like I think he tried to make it as thoughtful as possible. And so for someone like him to come out and say this, I think that's the big thing, because people have been complaining about North American solo queue and the state of it for a really long time. And we have, you know, like I'm gonna piggyback in the whole Ignar Santorin sneaky debacle that came out like a few days later, with like how people look at NA solo queue. And I think like there are two schools of thought, right? Like there's the one that's like the flame that happens on NA solo queue is like not anything compared to what you'd see in EU West, or definitely not compared to anything you'd see in China or South Korea. Like definitely. But like on the other side, the problem and the thing that people have been saying for a really long time is that even if you go in with the attitude of like, I'm going to take this super seriously, I am going to be very competitive, I want to improve, I want to play the ladder, slogging through NA specifically is really rough, because of how people don't take it seriously, and because of how there aren't any sort of like, so even if you are taking it seriously, it'll wear you down remarkably quickly to experience what you have in NA solo queue. Because like you play in EU West, sure, someone's probably calling you like a lot of terrible things that should never be repeated to anyone, but they will also be trying to play. And that I think is the like double-edged sword of NA solo queue, right? It's that like I actually don't think the things you'll actually hear in NA solo queue are as bad as what you hear elsewhere. But I also think the fact that people don't take it as seriously, the fact that it naturally like wears people down. We've been talking about this for years, since people came over from South Korea to play, where the idea was like, oh, they're going to push solo queue up, right? Well, no, NA solo queue actually like dragged them down with it. Yeah. And it's never been the case that a player has come to North America and been, I think, better than what they were in their region if they're coming from another major region. And it's a problem. Like I have no idea how to address it. Like I have no idea how to force people to take it seriously, because it's really tough on a lot of from a lot of different levels. I know the ping is something that also like pro players are going to bring up like pretty consistently. They also have a problem with pro players taking in-houses seriously. Someone always tries to start in-houses. I see you, Nick and Aerosmith. I try to retweet you every time you're like advertising in-houses, because I think that's a way for pros to at least play in like maybe a more serious competitive environment. But it's tough. I don't know if you guys have anything to add. Like it is just a quagmire of awfulness.
Let me two things here, Tyler, and we definitely want to get your thoughts here too. So this happens at all levels, including at the pro level, right? We saw Santorin and Ignar doing this very thing, and Sneaky was their teammate, unbeknownst to them, and talking about this behavior on stream as Ignar and Santorin were doing this, not knowing that Sneaky was his teammate or their teammate. So we have instances like that, and we also have this response from Riot. Let me read this, Tyler, and let me get your thoughts on it. This is the TLDR version, so that they have a full blog explaining exactly what they hope to do. Deliberate game ruining behavior is something we need to prioritize addressing more. In the near future, we'll improve how report feedback works and introduce reporting in Champ Select. In the moderate term, we'll test more responsive detection of deliberate inting and pseudo AFKing. We're still considering steps after that, but the plan is to keep working on this longer term. We'll keep you updated each month on how internal progress and tests being run in specific regions are going. Do you believe this? Like, what is the solution? Is it to be strict in punishments? Like, is there a solution, Tyler? Like, where do they go from here?
There's no solution. I mean, if there was a solution, a game company would have figured it out already and implemented. This is a worldwide, this is a multi-game problem. Every single game has issues with toxicity. And we've talked about this on separate podcasts. We've talked about this on the Valorant podcast. We've talked about this on general esports podcast. Call of Duty, Counter-Strike. You're gonna get called, like, toxicity and people being trolls and people being, unsavory is gonna come in every single game. The problem with North America is that, like as Emily said, is that it's a laziness, right? It's a blasé attitude. It's not caring about the game. It's not caring about high elo. It's making a joke of the situation. Like, NA is not the most toxic region. I mean, I know people look at Korea and they're like, oh, Korea is this, mecca. They're the best. They're the nicest. Like, oh, Faker's so nice. They must all be like Faker. Like, it's a situation where everyone thinks, like, South Korea is super toxic. I think the best example of South Korea is that before, I believe a year or two ago, Riot used to have this honor system where after a game, you were able to honor opponents or teammates by saying, like, oh, good job, you were a good teammate, or you were a great shot caller, or you were, you did a great job. And then if you got enough of those, you would get a ribbon on your account. In South Korea, the players figured out that we are only going to honor the bad players. So if you had any of those ribbons on your profile, people would instantly know you sucked. And they would do everything possible to make fun of you and to basically isolate you.
Like a scarlet letter.
Exactly. That's what they use the honor system to make you feel good about yourself and to basically say you're a good player was used by the South Korean server to basically make fun of people and make people know that they suck. So it's not every server has a problem. European server, very toxic. Korean server, Chinese server, everything, very toxic. The problem with NA is that it's the blasé, not caring attitude where everyone just looks at NA and says, it's NA. We can't get better. We're there, every other region is growing in popularity. Korea, somehow, some way, even though it's 1/50th of the size of America, is still growing in population when it comes to popularity of League of Legends. China, getting popular every single day. Even Europe is growing in size where NA is dwindling and people stop caring about the game. Or even in high elo, it's even if you get top 15 challenger, what's the big deal? So you get the situations where people go AFK and they just troll for fun. It all comes down to this LOL NA attitude, which, some players, I feel like even though Emily said that no players come over here and, become better than they were in their previous region or especially South Korea, I do think players like Core JJ and Impact should be credited that they have reinvented themselves in some ways and they really have taken on the task to be, I don't want to say ambassadors for North America, but they have, really shown their expertise. And especially Core JJ, who
I was gonna say I agree with Core a lot actually. I don't think he's improved as a player, but I think he does take solo queue seriously, and I love his videos that he does.
Core is really smart. Core is North America has a really big market in terms of YouTube. He starts his own YouTube channel. He's an insanely smart player. Does great videos. If you have not checked out Core JJ's YouTube channel, please do. He has a lot of great content. And especially when it comes to just roster news, Doublelift going to TSM, Core JJ is happy to play with Tactical. He wants to play with Tactical. He sees a lot of potential in Tactical. And there's no other support in the entire league I would want to put a young player next to than the world champion himself, Core JJ. Someone who doesn't look at Tactical and say, I'm getting paid for the next few years. I could just, on my, $500K plus salary that he has, most definitely. He can literally just go to sleep for 3 years. No one would blame him. No one's going to blame Core JJ for taking NA not seriously and just wanting to, retire in 2 years, having a bucket load of money. He's already won Worlds. There's nothing else you can do above that. but he's taking the challenge upon himself, and he's excited to play with tactical, which is a great thing. You would want that attitude of players where he wants to bring tactical up and make him an all-star player to the level of double lift. And that's why I think giving kudos more to the players who embrace North America and who really want to get better. We should be talking about more of the core JJs of the world than trying to talk about the people who are just bringing the region down. And I'm not saying that, Ignar, or especially Santorin, who I think Santorin for the most part has been a great addition to North America, and he's one of the nicest people to talk to.
I actually don't think Santorin did anything wrong in that entire thread, to be honest.
Yeah, Santorin,
He was just there as a bystander. I guess he got some of the shrapnel because really, if you look at the comments, it's really Ignar that's doing a lot of the typing there. And Sneaky's just commenting about it. And he's bringing it to light on his stream.
I mean, I also think that, it's a weird situation, right? Because, I will stand by the fact that I don't think anyone's come to NA and improved, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't blame these players for getting frustrated. Sure, of course you'd want everyone to be core, but, I don't think that blaming people that come to North America for the state of North America is particularly productive or correct.
I don't even blame Ignar, right? I looked at the Ignar situation. My first thought was, damn, this is another situation where another Korean player or another import from Europe or Asia comes over, gets a big paycheck, and they laugh at North America, and they perform well because they're just more talented than most of the region, and then they're going to take their paycheck and leave. And I looked at that and I was like, teams should not build around players like that. You shouldn't build around that because there's a low ceiling there, because you might win and you might go far, but you're never truly going to become a great team. And then I looked at myself and it's like, we all make fun of North America. Everyone on this table, everyone in chat most likely, has made fun of North America at some time as a region. You have to laugh at it at some time because it's such a mess at times where you just have to go, well, it's North America, right? Compared to the other three regions, we might get some upsets, but in terms of infrastructure, we're good. But in terms of results, we're not comparable to China and Korea, and especially Europe, who's, just NA and Europe used to be close, and then Europe's just sped ahead of the European Master Series and their infrastructure just going way up with the LEC.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shame Ignar, right? If you're a player coming over to NA and you go into the solo queue system where everyone doesn't care and it's such a blasé attitude, you're going to laugh at North America, right? Ignar wants to be a good player. He wants to play on a world championship team. All these players want to go to Worlds. I'm sure Ignar wants to get revenge with Power of Evil. They were so close to beating SKT, a few years ago in China in one of the best series of all time. He wants to go to World Championship, but it does feel like there's a limiter when you come to NA, right? And that's why I'm so proud of an organization like Cloud9, who just keeps producing talent after talent after talent after talent. And Cloud9 has shown us time and time again that they can break barriers. They can go to the World Semifinals. They can build, non-import stars. Blabber is an MVP. Blabber, who was in scouting grounds 3 years ago as a 17-year-old kid who no one knew of. He was Blabberfish too. And they turned him into a true, he is on the cusp of being a world-class player who many people around the world respect and top players do. So I just want to, I think what we can do is shine light more on the people who are trying to make North America better. And I would say that's Cloud9 and Core JJ.
Yeah, let's do that right now, actually. Someone who's very well respected in the League of Legends community is Jat, and now he's a head coach. He's going to be coaching Team Liquid, taking over in the summer split. And actually, Emily had a chance to catch up with Jat after the announcement was made. Let's take a look at a part of that interview right now.
And then one of the things you said in your initial video for TL is that you actually thought that the team really lacked an identity for most of the spring split. Mm-hmm. What kind of identity do you think this TL team can have going forward? Or, obviously that's a work in progress, but what do you think is the number one thing you can improve on from TL in spring to TL in summer as a coach?
Yeah, I'm not going to get too specific on this because then maybe that'll help teams pick and ban against us. But I think it wasn't even me that necessarily needed to say the team lacked an identity. I think every individual player said that the team lacked an identity in the squad episode that they released after the Week 9 loss to Cloud9. So I think my hope is the biggest thing that I can add to the team is clarity and direction, so the team is actually specifically working towards something. I think that was one of the biggest problems in spring is they definitely freestyled a little bit, kind of throughout the whole split. Whether or not that was the way you're approaching practice, whether or not that's the way you're approaching a game. So getting everyone to commit to structure and preparation is just going to allow all of the talent to flourish, because the coaching staff with Kane is a genius about the game, right? We brought in Croissant as well. He's really smart. And then we also have all the players who've won so many splits or world championships or all these accolades. So there's so much talent. And I think the biggest thing I can provide is a direction so we can find the identity together.
The full interview is available at youtube.com/ESPN esports. I know we've made the joke that Jat doesn't age Emily and Tyler, but I feel like if there's one job that'll give him gray hairs, it's going to be head coach of Team Liquid. Yeah, exactly. How's this team going to do? Honestly, tactical, Broxa now a second split with the team. Expectations are there. How's this team going to do in the summer, Tyler? Let's start with you.
That's a bit good. I think they can be, I don't want to say title contenders because I think Cloud9 is still by far the best team. But I do think, a Broxa who's rejuvenated, who's now hopefully a bit, assimilated to the North American, servers and his new living conditions. I have a lot of high hopes for Tactical. I think he is one of the few blue chip prospects we have in the amateur pool right now. I also want to give a shout out to 100 Thieves, not Academy team, they're 100 Thieves next team. They have a 17-year-old top laner called Tenacity who just got second on the NA solo queue ladder. So, again, instead of looking at the negatives, let's talk about the positives. That's awesome that we have a 17-year-old player in the 100 Thieves system with a lot of money. And if you can bring that kid up and you can give him the best resources possible, he could be, another Licorice or another Blabber. So continue doing on that. And I just think the Team Liquid should be in a good spot. I want to see Tactical, for me personally, this is a season I want to see Tactical grow. And I want to see Tactical have that, Blabber-ish start, right? Where Blabber came into the league and he was exciting and he had a lot of great games. I'm sure Tactical will have, similar Blabber-ish moments, whereas a Blabber as a rookie had some brain-dead moments and looked very silly at times. And that's okay. He's a, a relative rookie. He played a few games last split, but I want to see Tactical get all the games with Tactical in the ADK area position. I want to see him pop off. And if he does, Team Liquid will probably be in the top 4 for the summer split.
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at this TL team, I do think what Jat said is important, where they lacked identity, and part of that was obviously because they, had visa issues, and then they were subbing Doublelift out and bringing Tactical in, and then bringing Doublelift back. The two main things I want from TL in the summer split are to find a defined team identity with the players that you do have. I think Tactical will perform perfectly fine on this team. I think the games that he did play with TL, he was fine. And I also think that the losses were definitely not on him. And then I want to see, and this is something that I wanted to see previously and it never happened, either because there was some sort of schism between them and the team, or because Broxa didn't come in time, or for whatever reason. I want to see Jensen and Broxa working well together as a jungle mid duo. I think that is incredibly important for the success of this team. So I hope whatever was happening in spring, they can kind of resolve that internally and move forward with a stronger jungle mid core, because these are two incredibly talented players. And I'd love to see them be able to play well together, because I think it's a really important component of whatever identity that TL wants to have.
Speaking of identity, let's move on to TSM. That is a team that definitely has changed their identity. Now, we have already discussed a lot about the business side of things. That is available in our archives. Everything that has happened from a business perspective with TSM, we've dived into it already. Let's talk about TSM right now in terms of team composition. We still don't know what's going to happen with Dardoch. We can speculate whether Dardoch will go to another team and there'll be another jungler coming in, whether it's going to be Spica coming in place from Academy. let's just assume that the Spica news is firm. Let's just for the purpose of this conversation, Spica will be the jungler for TSM starting in the summer. So you got Broken Blade top, Spica jungler, Bjergsen mid, double lift AD carry, Biofrost support. You look at that roster, Emily, what are you thinking?
So my biggest thing with TSM is that I really liked how they were going topside. And I actually really think that Dardoch had a lot of great early jungling. I will stand by that assessment. I don't think it's what TSM wanted from him, or I do think they had like massive communication issues in the mid game for whatever reason. So whatever happened there, it did not work. I think with Doublelift returning to the team, I think with what generally is shaping up to be, like I said earlier in this conversation, a bot lane focused meta in general, I think you will once again return to a kind of slower, steadier TSM. I still think it's weird because TSM, even as a like 5v5 team, even if they are like quote unquote focusing bot side, does a very deceptive thing where sometimes they will, like when they had Sven, they would leave him to play weak side and they still went top for Broken Blade. So the real test for TSM is going to be, where is Spica going to go? Where is he going to put his jungle attention? Are we going top side? Typically with Doublelift, you're probably not going to leave him to play weak side. So that does change the dynamic of what the team has been for the past, like I'd say like a year and a half or 2 years even since Doublelift left. So I think we'll see. I think both Doublelift and TSM are trying to recapture that 2016, 2017 energy, and we shall see if it works.
Will it work, Tyler?
Who knows? It's North America. I mean, I know.
Focus on TSM. Give me honest analysis. Yeah. Top 4 for TSM with Doublelift in the fold.
It's similar to Team Liquid, right? Where I think Team Liquid is banking on the future of tactical in this new roster, where TSM is more banking on the past and hoping that the Bjergsen Doublelift magic of putting together the two most successful people in the region's history can, spark the same, three-peat that they had before Doublelift, left for Team Liquid. I expect them to be, again, a very inconsistent team at times. I don't think they're going to roll through the league or they're going to be a C9 rival up until playoffs. I do think if everything clicks and we do see TSM bring it together in the playoffs, they could be that challenger for Cloud9, because I don't think, even though FlyQuest had an amazing spring split, I don't think anyone here is going to sit here and defend saying, no one can beat FlyQuest. FlyQuest is, without the doubt, the second best team in North America. I mean, Solo came in during the playoffs. He was their assistant coach 3 weeks before he became a starter. So there's so many, things changing in North America, especially in the summer split when you usually see less changes. I think TSM will be top. I think they'll make playoffs, assuredly. And I think they'll finish top 4. I think they have the potential to go to Worlds, but it's going to really come down to how Spica plays in the jungle, because we've said this, I think, millions. I've said this. Me and Emily have probably had this conversation a million times. Promising jungle, come to TSM. If he only, if he can, play his style and they can, play around him and they can lift him up, then maybe this team can, shoot for the stars. Mike Young, the next great North American jungle hope, his high-tempo style is going to change TSM drastically. Mike Young's high-tempo style lasted 0 seconds on TSM, and now he's stuck in the academy. So, Spica, again, another blue-chip prospect, similar to Tactical. I have more faith that Core JJ and Team Liquid staff, especially Jet at the helm, will prop him up. But, I want to have faith, right? Like, one of these times, one of these TSM junglers is going to stick, right? Just one of, 12 times the charm. Maybe, Spica is that 12th time, right?
That doesn't sound good at all. 12 times the charm. Oh, boy. Well, how much faith do you have in Kabe as he goes back to EU and joins Misfits, obviously Doublelift replacing him on TSM? Man, he comes from EU to LCS, has one split, and then all of a sudden he's back in the LEC. And he joins a Misfits squad, Emily, that, look, they finished in 5th, but they fizzled in the playoffs facing Rogue. And a lot of the players like Dan, Razork, Febiven, like there's some flashes of brilliance throughout the season, but when you look at the stats, they're kind of like, fifth among KDA for Febvin, eighth among junglers for Razork. Like they don't like pop out as a team that you would put stock into. How much does Kabe improve this team?
I mean, I think Kabe's strengths are that he can play weak side well. And he is typically a very strong team fighter. I know I'll probably receive some pushback from people who saw some of his struggles with TSM, but it didn't seem like that team had particularly good internal communication. I think that the big thing with Misfits, where I think Kabe could actually improve this team significantly, is that Kabe is a veteran player. He knows how to play the game really well. Again, he can play weak side. This team can still be not controlled, but like really helmed by Febvin still, because I think this was Febvin's, and we talked to him about this on the show a couple times. This was Febvin's like team to kind of bring up, right? And you saw him kind of taking that leadership role, and I think it worked really, really well for the team for a lot of their successes. And I do think Kabe is a good fit for this team, and I think it should allow players like Razork, like Denik, to shine a bit more, where we did see, like in my opinion, Febvin was actually consistently good. But Razork and Denik are the two players where we saw like these like really, really brilliant moments and then some mistakes because they're rookies, So I actually think this could be like a really interesting team to watch with Kabe on it.
Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I agree on the whole. I think Misfits, again, will be a playoff team. I agree with everything Emily says in terms of their potential. My entire thing about the Kabe situation, I still feel bad for B-Boy. He's bounced around from, he's, a South Korean player who started in South Korean Challenger. He bounced to China, played for Starhorn Royal Club, Young Miracles, finally got a start in the LPL with behind Imp on GD Gaming. That didn't work out. He went to Latin America and played for Furious Gaming. Then he finally got a starter job in a major region with Misfits, made it to the playoffs, had a decent to good season, and then because of the domino effect of Double Lift going to TSM, Kabe going to Misfits, he's now out of a job, and he's kind of in this weird limbo situation where everyone felt bad for Kabe, and I felt bad for Kabe, and I think people should still feel bad about B-Boy because it's a global pandemic. He's a South Korean player in Europe. It's a really sucky situation. I just want to say I hope B-Boy finds a team because he's a good player, and I hope he can find a situation where they actually can build around him.
Well, one person that it will be going to South Korea when it is safe to do so is Yamato Cannon. He joined Sandbox Gaming as the first Western coach in the LCK. Emily had a chance to speak with Yamato earlier today. Let's show you a clip from that interview right now.
Maybe there isn't any difference between getting picked up by a Western org and getting picked up by a Korean org, but how specifically did you go about getting this position? Did you reach out to the team? Did they reach out to you? What was the interview process?
So pretty much Becker, the GM, I believe, I think is his title. I apologize if it's wrong. He's, I think, head of esports, possibly. He's higher up. He reached out to me and he talked to me about the proposition of working with Sandbox. And at the time, I was kind of weighing different offers. And to me, the LCK was so intriguing. So I pursued it and checked out what their plans are for summer. And following like the LCK Sandbox, like considering we don't have that much time to watch like every single game. So Sandbox was kind of low on my radar. You kind of follow like the top teams and see what's going on because it usually kind of defines the region. And then I kind of looked back at their players and I knew something's wrong here. Like this is a roster that doesn't belong in the 9th place. So that already filled me with like excitement and challenge, so to speak. And I definitely felt in spring working on the broadcast that I missed the competitive side and the bonds and the connections you have with players. So the challenge of it, I pursued it, and the process was super smooth. It was honestly super clean. We had some time zone differences that we had to figure out, but we found timings and they made it very easy for me.
So when you look at Sandbox's performances? Like when you were going back and looking at them, you've mentioned in other interviews, I know you interviewed with Ashley earlier, this is like, and I have the same reaction, like on paper, this is not a team that should be performing like how Sandbox performed in spring. So in your opinion, analytically, what was this team's like number one trouble spot in spring LCK?
I think a problem for a lot of teams was just adjusting to the meta. I think in general, we saw teams that figured out how to draft and how they wanted to play early on, and they racked up a lot of victories from the get-go because it was kind of all over the place. Like every week, there was something new. There was clearly OP, and there were some teams that were just lagging behind. And Sandbox found a lot of success in the past playing through top sides with Summit and On Fleek having a lot of past synergy, and then the meta kind of shifted into a place where bot lane was so important. And I think this was the most difficult part for Sandbox. They tried a lot of things, swapping around players to try to figure it out, but they couldn't really land on their feet. And I think it was just too late by the end of it. Luckily, they requalified and they figured out how to play things. And that was the point in time where I began to work with the team. So I think just preparing for the meta, figuring out which players should play. And I think these were just the two major difficulties, yes.
Did you help them at all during their promotion tournament?
I wanted to begin the moment because they practiced for such a long time before relegation, so I didn't want to kind of jump in and kind of change things and just confuse things. I trusted that they would requalify, and the interim head coach did a good job, Joker, who is going to be my assistant coach. We're going to work together, and I had full trust that they would requalify. So I just stayed put, and then when they were back from the vacation, the players got the news, and we continued from there.
Yeah, so I think the big thing coming out of that is he is just really excited to go on Sandbox. It is unprecedented, and I think when we think of Yamato Cannon, I mean, I hate to continuously return to this idea of like team identity, but I think it's something that he does really want to explore with Sandbox, and he feels like these players did underperform given their talent level in LCK, and so it's about finding a way that they can play together that is like really cohesive. I was actually really impressed by a lot of his answers, and I hope he gets to go out to Korea soon and get his quarantine over with so he can start really being with the team in person.
Yeah, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There's no downside to this for Sandbox. They can't get relegated. This is all going to come down to franchising next year, so why not take a shot? You might, you now have a Western face, so in terms of Western sponsorships, maybe get a Western sponsorship going into franchising for the resume. And he also brings a creative style where he will find an identity with this team. It's such a big roster, too, that he has a lot of tools to play with. It's not like a roster like, Damwon, where it's very set in its ways and you have one or two subs or a KT. This is a very big roster, and I think the only player who should feel comfort in their spot is Summit, because I think Summit is still one of the better top laners in the LCK, even though the top lane power level of South Korea has gone down a lot in the last year or so. I still think Summit's a very good player. But I think besides that, you have a lot of tools to play with. You could play with Dove, you could play with Fate, Leo or Root. Leo and Root are both really good young talent. Gorilla, also known as one of the most creative players in the support role ever. Never forget the misfortune in the epic T1 versus Tiger series in Madison Square Garden. He was the one who came up with the misfortune support pick. So this team has a lot of creativity, has a lot of tools to be painted by, and I think Yamato is going to look at this team and he's going to find them an identity. And with a season where you can't get relegated and you have one shot to impress going into franchising, why not take a shot like Yamato Cannon?
I bet that Griffin wished that they couldn't get relegated.
Oh, no. That's such a good segue, but it hurts.
Because what has happened to this team? My goodness, Tyler. We got 3 players dropping, Arda Ocal and Viper, which really culminates after being relegated, not making it through the spring or summer promotion, I should say. Everything that happened in 2019. I mean, what is going on here?
It's a historic end to an historically beautiful mess. And I remember when, Griffin was gumming up through the amateur ranks, I was one of the few, I think it was me, like Papa Smithy and some other people who were watching them play in Challenger. And we were like, these guys are really good. They have a lot of holes and, their landing phase isn't perfect, but their team fighting, Lehens and Chovy, it was Rather actually was playing most of the series in Challenger. It was Rather and Tarzan. And this Tarzan kid was so good. And even Sword, who has now become a international meme, was still respected as this like weak side top laner who you could put on, a tank and he would do the job. And like this team was the perfect team fighting team. These guys came through Challenger and they made the finals in their first season. They almost beat KT in a very close series where famously CB Max yelled at the players after choking away almost guaranteed victory that would have won them the final. And who knows what would have happened if Griffin didn't choke that 4th game away and actually beat KT and made it to Worlds that year. But Griffin is a story that will be hopefully, written about in much greater lengths because it's a beautiful mess. They had such a fast rise and such a drastic fall all at the same time. It's kind of like a rock star, right? Where they get that number 1 hit and everyone loves them. They get millions of followers, and then they screw up and they all fall down at the same time. And there's nothing that people love more than an ascent, than watching a fast ascent fall and watching them crumble to the ground. And that's especially what Griffin is. And now Griffin going into 2019 Summer Challenger or whatever it is, it's going to be, Sword sitting by himself in exile, and Tarzan, hopefully Tarzan will get a transfer, most likely to an LPL team, but it's a very, very sad situation because Griffin were supposed to be the future, right? Griffin came in and they were supposed to bring South Korea to the next generation. And it turns out that there is no next generation. The next generation to South Korea is just Faker. Faker is the past, present, and future of South Korea, and he's proven that by just winning 3 straight championships. So Griffin came in like a fireball, went straight up, and then Faker basically slapped them down twice in finals, and now they're dead. So ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Griffin, you're dead to us.
I mean, I think the big thing about Griffin when I think of them from an analytical perspective is that I think their greatest strength when they were at the top was not necessarily that they were like the most mechanically gifted players in the entire region. There were a few of them that were, but I think their strength was always that their motto, as came down from CB Max, was 5 as 1, right? So we're going to move as one brain. And speaking as someone who watches a lot of LPL teams with very defined identities, if you can get a team to move as one, as a unit, it is actually honestly the most valuable thing. It's even more valuable than playing the game objectively well. I know that's a controversial statement because people have very rigid ideas of how they think League of Legends should be played, specifically in South Korea. However, I think that was Griffin's greatest strength, is that when this team was together as a unit, they were completely unstoppable. And that's where a lot of their mistakes were covered up, right? Because they just pull out these like insane late game 5v5 team fights after completely botching their mid game. And I think that is something that was definitely lost last year as we watched this team fall apart internally on the world stage. I think it's really unfortunate, the timing that happened, by the way, that all of these grievances were being aired, because basically from an outsider perspective, what I saw is 2 people fighting over this team that's just trying to do their best on an international stage. So they're trying to go out and play every single day while their coach, their former coach, and their management are having this horrible like poop slinging fight in public. So that really was upsetting, as were a lot of the other things that happened around Griffin internally. So, I mean, I don't have any sort of loyalty to the org itself. I just want all of the players to find good homes now, be that like on a new Griffin without the same management, or be that with, like, for example, we're going to see Viper reunite with Lehens on Hanwha Life. And Hanwha Life is a team that actually has a lot of creative, like, weird tricks up their sleeve. I really loved watching them play this past season. I wouldn't say they were, like, a good team, but they were a really interesting team. They did a lot of interesting things in draft. And if Viper can bring that kind of, like, he's another player, right, that you think of, and he can play anything. Like, he would play anything in bot lane. He was, you know, most famously, I think, was the one that tried Teemo Bot and then told people not to try it because it sucked. I think reuniting with Lehens, who's another player, is like a very funky champion pool, kind of weird. Like, this Hanwha Life team, I know I say this every time because they're always kind of weird, but like they're going to be really interesting to watch. So I hope Viper finds a new good home there. I hope all of the players find a new home, and will remember Griffin not as they died, but as they lived.
And I hope that you watch the Rift Rewind next week. We do have some tournaments and events to preview on our next episode, including the Mid-Season Cup. We will dive into that next Tuesday as it does begin on May the 28th. The semifinals of that event, which include 4 LPL teams and 4 LCK teams, will actually be happening during a 48-hour League of Legends charity stream that Riot Games is hosting that will raise money for COVID-19 relief. So it's going to be 48 hours. It's going to begin at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, March 29th, and it's going to go until 8 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, May 31st. And pretty much every region is going to be involved. There's even going to be a Casters versus Champions event from Turkey, which is amazing. I'm definitely going to be tuning in for that. And also some pro exhibition matches in North America. But yes, probably the marquee event of everything is going to be that Mid-Season Cup semifinal, which will be several hours on opening night. So that's going to be beginning on May the 29th. What I mean is the 48-hour stream. And the Mid-Season Cup itself is going to be on May the 28th. So we'll talk about all of that next Tuesday on the Rift Rewind. But our week of League of Legends is not over. On Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, it's trivia night, baby. We're going to have some fun with you, chat. You get to play along with us, and we keep score. It's a lot of fun. Last week, Emily reigned supreme. Tyler wasn't happy about it. Will we see revenge, Tyler? Are you have you been cramming? Have you been reading up on your League of Legends lore that you didn't like the questions from last week?
Those questions are rough.
I've already protested that one. Like, one of the questions was literally, "What does Yamato mean in Japanese?" I still think that I was cheated.
Shout out to Brian for that question.
Yeah, so if the questions this week are actually, you know, thought-provoking about the real League of Legends esports scene, I'm still very confident.
No guarantees. No guarantees. We can throw curveballs.
Do not throw. Tune in this Friday, and I will reign supreme. I guarantee it.
Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Emily is the reigning champ of us, the analysts, but you get to join in as well. It's fully interactive. It's a lot of fun. If you like trivia and you like League of Legends, you're going to love it. So see you Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and don't forget the Rift Rewind every single Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern right here. If you're not following the channel, please hit that heart. We have live programming every single day pretty much. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next time.